as usual, with roll call.
Phil Block.
Carolyn Watson.
Monica Webster.
Jane Norris.
Kelly Aramaki.
Okay, the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous lands of the Coast Salish, including the Duwamish, Muckleshoot, and Snoqualmie peoples. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial. We reflect on the historic context that brings us to reside on this land and accept responsibility to interrupt erasure. We are committed to our ongoing partnership with the Snoqualmie tribe as we listen to, learn from, and lead with their guidance. And next we have the introduction of the student. Mr. Harrison.
Thank you. Oh, wow, that's loud. I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize I didn't have a mic. I'm going to turn the honor of introducing our student tonight over to the principal of Tyee, Miss Danielle Verada.
Okay. Good evening. I'm excited to announce Chris Marley. He's one of our 8th grade ASB officers at Tyee, and he'll be sharing with you a little bit about what's going on at Tyee and also lead us in the pledge. Thank you.
Okay, so first we have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, we'd like to hear anything you'd like to tell us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Marley, and I'm an ASB student at Tyee. And I'm really excited to share a few good things Tyee is and has been doing and how us as ASB members have contributed to the well-being of our school community. One thing that our ASB has contributed to is our overall student engagement. For example, Spirit Weeks. Over the past 2 years that we've been at Tyee, we barely saw any people participating, and honestly, no one really had a drive to actively participate. Student engagement was just not at its highest. However, our most recent Spirit Week, the week of Halloween, we came to school seeing many more students participating in our themes, such as Unnecessary Accessories Day, College Day, and etc. ASB worked together and spent lots of time and meeting minutes trying to figure out themes that would hopefully catch the students' interests, and well, it worked. Similarly, every year, Tyee hosts an event that is probably our most popular and highest attended Lunar New Year Festival. This annual get-together actively and encourages students to promote their own culture in expressive and distinct ways. As more and more students continue to participate in these events, student engagement increases too, which has ultimately been the goal of Tyee and ASB this school year. Our Lunar New Year Festival for the 2026 school year will be hosted on February 6th, so if anybody is interested in coming, it'll be great to have you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all today.
Thank you. I feel like I live on Necessary Accessories Day, but okay. That was fun. Next, we have the acknowledgements. Okay, there we go. This is Native American Heritage Month. On the 2nd, we had Dia de los Muertos. On the 4th, we had Election Day. On the 11th, we will have Veterans Day. And from the 10th to the 14th, it is National School Psychology Week. All right, that's a shorter than usual list. Okay, next up is approval of the agenda. So first we need a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second, okay. Would anybody like to discuss the agenda? Anybody have any comments or discussion on that? Okay, since we have no discussion, I'm going to say all those in favor of the agenda as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And since I heard all the ayes, I'll say that passed, so that we can note that. And then we're going to go on to the consent agenda and do the same process. So can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second? All right, quick. And does anybody want to discuss anything? Okay. Not seeing any hands raised for discussion. I'll say, let's take the vote. Is there?
Just one point of clarification, 2.8, I think that was removed from the consent agenda for this time around. Is that correct?
Yes, the Odal.
What's missing is the ASB revisions to the Odal Constitution, and they wanted more time, so that's been removed from the consent agenda, so everything else is renumbered.
Okay,
Okay, because it's not on.
2.8.
It's not that way on the printout that I received. So it is that way online? Yeah, okay. So let's say the motion is, does anybody want to sort of remake the motion to approve the version we got online, or do we need to do that?
I move to approve the consent agenda as posted online and as shown on the screen.
Okay, great.
Second.
All right, so now we can have discussion. Does anybody want to discuss it now? Okay. All those in favor of approving the agenda that's online, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I don't hear any room for nay, so that's been approved. And we're going to go on to superintendent update.
Great. Thank you. Just a few things this morning. This evening. First, congratulations to Tracy Maitland. It's not official, but looks like she will be elected to the school board. And so we want to welcome her. She's a really great parent leader here in Bellevue. And so we're thrilled to have her. Let me see here. I want to start by sharing just some information about enrollment. We've been talking about this for a while now. It probably matters less to other people, but to me, enrollment is like everything. But here, this is a picture of all of the districts in King County. So each of those blue lines is a different school district. This is the enrollment data for this year compared to last year. So you can see the zero line. Lines, the bars that are above zero means the district grew from last year. Lines that are below the zero line are districts that shrunk from last year. And so I don't want to keep you waiting, but if you take a look, there's Bellevue. We're one of the only districts who grew. All of the rest of the districts in King County have gotten smaller, and Bellevue has grown by a lot. I mean, we have 200 kids more than last year, by far the most in this region. And I just want to say, we're very proud of this. I mean, this is not just an accidental thing because our house prices are still high, birth rates are still low. But Dr. Ricardo Macias, who's the director of the Welcome Center, he sent out a survey to all new families to Bellevue just to ask them how they're doing and then to see kind of why did you choose to come to Bellevue? And these are kind of the 6 top reasons with the most common reason on top. So the first one is proximity to home or proximity to work. And so people either live here or they work in Bellevue and they want to send their kids to Bellevue. Number 2, the second most common reason for coming to Bellevue was academic excellence and the reputation of the Bellevue School District, which we know. I mean, our schools are really outstanding. They're highly rated nationally, and that's a big reason for families. And so we've got to keep that up. Number 3, services. People are here because of our special education services, our advanced learning services, our multilingual services. 4, innovative programs. Families talked about the language programs, our Arabic program at Ardmore, our parent partnership, things like that. People are coming because we're creating programs that people want their kids to be a part of. And then 5, extracurricular, so robotics, athletics, things like that. We have all of these things that kids can do, and parents hear about them and want their kids to be a part of it. So really exciting. We're really proud. We're going to keep up the good work. And I just want to say thank you to our staff who work so hard to make our schools as good as they are. And thank you to the parents for trusting in us and believing in us and sending your kids to school in the Bellevue School District. Just a quick thing about transportation. We've had a few schools where the buses were delayed this week, and that's because we've had a number of bus drivers get sick this week and weren't able to cover those routes. And so we had our the ones who were coming into work, driving, and then going to pick up the other schools. And so I just want to tell the community that we try not to have delays and things like that, but we are working on that. Today was a better day. And our transportation department is actually in the process of hiring more and more bus drivers because we need more bus drivers. We need substitute bus drivers so that when we have illnesses and things, we have people who can cover. So Anyway, so thank you to the community for their patience around transportation. We try to have seamless operations, and sometimes that doesn't work out that way, but we're continuing to improve for the community. I just want, this is a picture of, we had a mental health event for our community put on by the Bellevue Schools Foundation. And it was titled Look for the Helpers. And Look for the Helpers is something that Mr. Rogers would say. He said that when he was little and he would see stressful things on the news, his mother would tell him, you know, when things are really scary, look for the helpers. And that was the theme for this evening. Director Webster hosted the night, and I think a few of our board directors were there, but it was basically an evening dedicated to looking at all the supports that we have in place in Bellevue to support student mental health. And for kid mental health in Bellevue, we have amazing mental health counselors and school counselors. And people also know that we've had to cut back a lot on mental health counseling. But we also have a lot of community-based organizations who are here to support our kids with mental health. On top of that, one of the most important things that we can do proactively for student mental health is to get kids involved in extracurriculars, in activities, in music, in drama, and in sports, because we know that when kids are part of communities and have adults who care about them, that they have better outcomes with regards to mental health. And so we, you can see here, right here, close up, we have a teacher from Sammamish who's the band teacher, Mary, and she does amazing work to build community and get kids excited about school and wanting to come to school. And so anyways, it was a great evening. I wasn't able to be there, but I heard a lot of amazing things. And I want to say thank you to the Bellevue Schools Foundation because they help us fund a lot of our mental health supports here in Bellevue. And lastly, if you just want to see what joy looks like, here's a picture of it. This is Sammamish High School. Our staff, you know, on top of trying to teach our kids well, they just know how to bring fun to school, and as it should be. And so I don't think this is like a normal way people dress, but, you know, with the fall festivities and stuff, it's just great to see, you know, adults dressing up, having fun, bringing joy to kids. And so, again, thank you to our community for uplifting our children. And that's it.
Okay, wow, thank you. All right, now it's time for public comments. Oh, we're running 10 minutes ahead of schedule. That's amazing. Okay, I'll turn it over to Chief of Staff Harrison. Oh, you want me to read that whole thing? Okay, no, I've got the shorter version here. Okay, the board values public input and allocates 20 minutes per meeting for public comments, with each speaker limited to 2 minutes. Comments must be civil and within legal and district policy boundaries. The meeting chair may end comments that exceed time limits or violate standards of civility. The board expects the same level of civility that the board imposes on itself. Uncivil comments include those that are libelous, obscene, violate privacy, incite unlawful acts, or disrupt the meeting. The board reserves the right to maintain order, but differentiates between uncivil remarks and critical yet respectful commentary. Now, Mr. Harrison, will you please introduce the public commenters?
I would be happy to do that. Just a quick process check with the folks listed on the screen. We have 5 speakers tonight. They're all in person. You will note, speakers, in the top left-hand corner, the timer that ticks down from 2 minutes, so please be cognizant of your time. If you're the next speaker in line, just as that clock ticks down, make sure you're making your way and you're ready to speak. And the first thing we'd like you to do is to state your name for the record before you begin your public comment. So we'll start tonight with Mr. Alex Zimmerman.
Yeah, my name Alex Zimmerman, and I want to speak about something what absolutely critical. For my understanding, King Country is a #1 fascist county in America, and Bellevue is epicenter of fascism in King County. And I give you a classic example. They cut my statement for election against Mayor Robinson totally. You keep only one sentence, so everybody know how bad I am. 200 words go in garbage. This is how Nazi Gestapo fascist junta operate in Bellevue. They only keep one sentence, make Bellevue great again. That's it, from 200 words. What does this mean? This means we have a fascism government in Bellevue. They don't grow for one day. They go for a long time. And I spoke about this for 30 years. So right now they come to peak. But you guys, you're more dangerous from these Bellevue crooks. Why? Because you're more dangerous than Nazi Gestapo, German Nazi Gestapo who kill children, because you kill children. And exactly yesterday, I mean, this meeting was what is you show about mental condition, you know what has been. You are kill children. You understand? It's very serious. You are real bandita. You are killer because you make children look like a zombie. How many years I come here? In Seattle, I have for 10 years, in here few years, you know what it means? You make from children a zombie. It's very dangerous, guys. You are real bandita. You are real killer. Children have stress because they can be who they are. You have restriction, what is only equal to Nazi fascist junta. So, viva Trump, viva New American Revolution, stand up, slave, and happy cow. Remember, Trump talking about freedom of speech. You don't have with your stupid 2 minutes. I will listen right now for another 6 people. 2 minutes for what? Everybody have to.
Alec, comment is over.
Hello, my name is Melissa Taylor. I am a dual language teacher at Highland and the parent of a hard of hearing preschooler who's outside. 2 weekends ago, I attended a conference hosted by the Washington Association for Bilingual Education, and I learned a great deal. I'd like to share about a particular session that I attended with you. Jen Foster from the Puyallup School District presented on Puyallup School District's new American Sign Language dual language program. The program started last year with their first cohort of kindergarteners who are now in first grade. It began with 6 DHH students, 7 students whose families opted in, and 4 students who were placed in the class by lottery. Families who were placed by lottery were educated about the pilot and provided the opportunity to opt out. None of them did. It is important to note that 1 year from year 1 to year 2, the program had no attrition. This year, every single seat in the program was filled by students, deaf and hard of hearing and hearing, who asked to participate in the program. It's interesting to note that the program has a composition similar to that recognized best practices for spoken dual language programs. 1/3 deaf and hard of hearing students, 1/3 of ASL exposed students, such as children, grandchildren, and cousins of deaf and hard of hearing people, and roughly 1/3 English only speakers. This is the ideal, according to research, ideal composition of a dual language class. The students start their day with explicit ASL instruction and SEL work done during this time. Jen shared that students never previously exposed to sign language are able to sign incomplete fluent sentence remarkably fast, within a month. ASL is integrated throughout the day and into instruction to ensure both communication access for the DHH students and language exposure for the hearing students. The program has a goal of a 50-50 language allocation plan by the time the program rolls up to 3rd grade in 2 years. I do not think it's a monumental task for us to implement a similar program, and in fact, I think we can do it even better due to our existing expertise in dual language program implementation, as evidenced by Dr. Aramaki's enrollment report. We can find 6 DHH kindergartners. The time to do this is now. Thank you.
Good evening, board directors and Dr. Aramaki. My name is Abigail Horsfall. I'm the BEA secretary, speaking here tonight on behalf of Reagan Lorden, our BEA vice president. Tonight, I want to speak to the growing disconnect between what is happening inside our classrooms and the decisions being made outside of them. Student behaviors have increased significantly, both in frequency and intensity. Our educators are responding with care, de-escalation, reteaching of expectations, and relationship building day after day. However, the toll this takes on our educators and our students is real and growing. Classroom teachers are exhausted. Paraeducators are exhausted. Specialists are exhausted. Everyone is exhausted. As a result, student needs are not being met and sometimes left unaddressed. Yet that impact is not always visible or seen by those outside of buildings, away from the daily work of our classrooms. Educators are deeply resilient, and we show up for students even when we are stretched thin. We often protect administrators and directors from seeing just how hard it truly is, because we care about our classrooms, our schools, and our students' sense of safety and stability. But we cannot continue to rely on quiet endurance as the system's safety net. This is why we are here week after week to give voice to what is happening in our classrooms. We are here to speak honestly about the conditions our members are experiencing, because many of them cannot safely or comfortably do so themselves. Our role is to advocate for staffing, training, time, and support that matches the reality of student needs right now, not the reality we wish we had. We need leadership to understand that burnout is not a personal weakness and see that it is a warning of structural problems. When educators are asking for help, the system must not only listen, but respond with action before we lose even more of the people who make our learning communities possible. Educators are committed to our students, and we all need the district to be equally committed to the people who serve them. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Beverly Doliak. I am a teacher at Ardmore, and I teach in the LAP program. And I'm here talking about an issue that we are experiencing at Ardmore, but I think it's all of our school district is experiencing it. And before I start, I really want to say that teaching has been the privilege of my life, and the work that I do with students to teach them to read is so essential. And right now, we don't have enough substitute teachers to fill vacancies in our school. So what's happening in our buildings, unfortunately, is that 2 or 3 times a week, I am having to stop what I do with marginalized students who are struggling to learn to read and all areas of literacy, and I'm having to substitute in a class where there is no substitute. Our office manager starts at 6 o'clock in the morning, and she starts texting us to tell us, you know, where the needs are, and this involves our MLL teachers and anyone in the building who doesn't have a classroom. We worked through our REIL team and our BLT previously to set up a structure so that we would trade off who was subbing, but it's happening so often that it's really interfering with the work that we all do with students. I think there should be an easy fix to this: hire more substitutes. I'm not sure what's happening, that it's not just Ardmore. It's not just that they don't want to come to Ardmore because Ardmore is a hard place. I'm hearing this from all of my colleagues throughout the district, that it is happening repeatedly, weekly, and it's really, really dragging down our program. So appreciate you hearing about that.
Hello. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Dr. Miguel Olivares. I'm here on behalf of my son, David, a 4th grade student who studied for 2 years in a Spanish dual language program in Issaquah. Last November, the bomb cyclone destroyed our home in Issaquah. We had to move to Bellevue to rebuild our lives, and we sought to continue David's Spanish education here. From November through this week, almost a full year, our family has sent emails, made calls, and waited for answers. We were told Puesta del Sol Elementary had a long wait list, even though district data shows otherwise. Puesta del Sol 2020 kindergarten class of 91 students dropped to just 52 by 4th grade, a 43% loss. Sherwood Forest Another dual language school shows similar declines. If for any reason Puesta truly had no space, the district should have checked immediately whether there was a space in Stevenson's Elementary's dual language program, another Bellevue school with a Spanish dual language program and for which we applied. That simple step could have saved us months of stress and confusion. And here's the irony. Today, nearly a year after our first request, we were finally told that David has been accepted to Stevenson. We are grateful, but this should have happened months ago. The delay shows a systemic failure to apply Bellevue's own values of equity, responsiveness, and family engagement. The Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction reminds us that equity and civil rights ensure that each student has equal access to public education without discrimination. The state's dual language plan calls these programs a priority for growth and funding. And Bellevue's own website promises to honor each student's language and culture while promoting multilingualism. When a displaced bilingual child living in Bellevue spends nearly a year waiting for an answer, those words ring hollow. We urge the board to review how the Student Placement Office handled this case.
That's it.
And make sure
Sorry, your time
that
is
not
up.
other family displaced by hardship ever must fight so long to be treated and to make sure that no displaced by hardship ever must fight so long to be treated fairly.
Your comment time is over. Thank you. One of the things you could do is your written comments, which are great. You can, if you leave them. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that's the first time that's happened. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the department report, which will be athletics and activities.
Evening, directors, superintendent. And thank you for the opportunity to speak with you on Monday, give you an opportunity to ask some questions and provide some edits to the report that's now been posted. But tonight we're going to highlight some progress and priorities in the athletics and activities department, speak a little bit about middle school and high schools. Just to emphasize that our department is continuing to align its work with our district student agency and future ready goals. Always like to, would help if I turn this thing on, I think. Maybe. Nope. There we go. Okay, always nice to start with celebrations. Year 2024-25 school year was a strong year for athletics and activities at the high school level for sure, with multiple state level finishes in our schools in golf, swimming, cheerleading, football, tennis, and volleyball. Students continue to show up in the classroom even this year. So this fall, our submitted varsity team GPAs to the WIA as part of their Scholastic Cup program varied between 2.94 for varsity teams up to a 3.9 at the highest level. And then our participation numbers are remaining steady. There are a few dips here and there. I did end up putting some clarification into the board report for you, just to highlight those both at the high school and the middle school level. And then the other thing that's important to continue to emphasize is the Bellevue School District staff's input into the KingCo schedule. And we do advocate, the four building athletic directors and myself, we do advocate strongly for a multi-classification scheduling model that would end up providing more collaborative and student-centered structures for both regular season and postseason opportunities for kids. A specific question was asked on Monday about what is termed in many corners of the state Rule 1812 of the WI handbook, and that is what people refer to as the transfer rule. That's work that I was asked to lead. WI Executive Board member and for the Sea King District 2, and I was asked by the executives and the board to lead a group that was tasked by the Representative Assembly. These are voting members of the WI across the state to take a look at our transfer rules, in part because we had state legislators that were actually looking at those rules and think they were too prescriptive and ended up limiting opportunities for students to choose schools that were going to be beneficial to them. So that work has taken place over the last 18, 19 months. The committee is going to stay in place right now after implementation. The focus of the committee right now is to evaluate the impacts of this new state transfer rule, really identify any unintended barriers to student eligibility that may come from the change in rule, and then making sure we continue to recommend updates that would end up being fair and transparent for families and students and schools. And what we're really looking at doing is making sure that we align WI rules with the state RCWs that says that we are a school choice state, where families and students actually get an opportunity to select schools. School districts do have the right, obviously, you know this, to limit outside people that are outside of our attendance areas from just taking over our schools and not being able to serve those in Bellevue. But what we know now is that there are spaces for kids, and we want to make sure that they have those opportunities. We continue to look at a number of other things. Before I get into a couple other things, I will end up saying that one of the most challenging things that I'm doing right now is leading the handbook subcommittee for the WIA. The handbook is I'm going to say is a pain point for state athletics across for everybody across the state, in part because it's difficult to access, it's difficult to find rules, and what we're trying to do is modernize it, as well as making sure that it actually says what it is that is being implemented across the state too. It is work that probably 3 to 4 times a week we're looking at something in the book, and almost on a daily basis I get a call from somebody about it. We're continuing to expand unified sports and flag football, 2 things that we started last year. And we're really going to start working on data-driven analysis of participation trends, specifically looking at demographic data. So communication will be coming out about that in the semester, right around semester time, and we'll be transferring that information into final forms, which we use right now, as you well know too. We continue to work deeply with our partner Jubilee Reach. I am so appreciative of the work that they do, and the more I get an opportunity to work with them, the more I appreciate just who they are as human beings as much as anything else. They are deeply important to our schools and end up bringing a human approach to support in the classrooms as well as after-school programming. I've also spent time this fall with our middle school administrators trying to streamline the 2 still BSD supported athletic programs. And my wife tells me, how can you take on something else? But my department's going to be leading then the building of those programs to try and alleviate some pressure on building principals, also staffing and other things. And then I'm excited. I have an intern from Big Picture, and one of the things that she is going to be helping me do is make sure that we get an intramural tennis opportunity launched this spring. You can see the numbers there. Those numbers are the fall sports for Jubilee Reach. And I will say that one of the things that, in talking to Jubilee Reach leadership since Monday, that is very apparent is that there are still areas of our district where kids are having a hard time getting themselves interested in doing something, and that's where some of those 0 numbers that you see there, they asked, they did their usual, their usual work to get kids, and kids just didn't want to sign up this year. They wanted to sign up for something else. So we're going to continue to work with them, with Jubilee Reach staff, to figure out what's going on there as well. One of the other areas that that always ends up bringing questions is activities. We're going to continue to talk to people about ASB budgeting, do all the things that we've done. And then an ask came from a school this fall, and I decided instead of just a quick answer that what I wanted to do, and again, I look in the mirror sometimes and wonder why I do these things to myself, but we're going to do a deep dive into the drama program. There were some really good questions that were asked about support of the drama programs, and instead of just saying, let's just come up with a Band-Aid solution, I want to do a complete, thorough analysis of it and be able to present it to those that can end up thinking about long-term solutions rather than just a quick fix for somebody, and instead think of a solution for the entire system. So you can see the 9 areas that I'm going to end up looking at this fall. I'm going to start by pulling data that I can find right now, and then the idea would be to bring others together to end up making this, this work. We continue to work with the Welcome Center to align volunteer processes. You've heard work done with the PTSA Council and work with others to try and find ways to tie interested volunteers with opportunities at school. I had a great meeting with Dr. Macias and some of his staff this week, and the idea is that we're looking to move to a new platform. This is something that will end up being communicated through the spring, and then a full transition to that new platform next fall. Once I saw the platform and everything else, and Dr. Macias and I are going to end up dividing up who owns what and make sure people know, and we're talking about how to do that. But excited about that opportunity as well. And then you all also know that my department for years now has actually led the work to make sure process is followed so that you all approve those trips that you're supposed to approve. And Final Forms is going to be our house for data, house for information, and that's what this slide really ends up dealing with. Knowing that we only have 5-6 minutes left, I want to stop and let you all ask questions. I could talk to you forever, but you know that about me too.
All right, so who's got a question or comment or something? All right, Director Aras.
That was a very full presentation. Thank you. As we all know, that how important our after-school activities is for our students to take off some of that stress and find a place of belonging. So I appreciate the thoroughness and also your desire to take on more tasks to improve it some more. So thank you. I also appreciate the fact that you're taking our high school students to intern and seeing the crazy space that you're in, and showing them and giving them the opportunity to have impact in it. Thank you. I wanted to just take the moment to ask you to repeat what you shared with me on Monday, which was on the gymnastics of when,
Yes.
When program, the numbers of student decreases and the decisions to make, and how, like, for instance, the gymnastics and what you did. That'd be great.
So very quickly, if there was ever going to be a program that we cut, it is because that's a final decision. We're not bringing it back. And as long as I have this job, we're not going to do that. We find other ways to make sure that we can serve kids at our school. So at Newport High School this fall, last fall and this fall, numbers of kids that signed up for the gymnastics program were too small to sustain the program at Newport alone. Would have been an undue burden on those kids and on those coaches, and they likely would have quit. It would have been a horrible season. So we've got a provision under the WI rules that allow for what's called a combined program. And so Newport High School and Bellevue High School will serve in a combined program this year. And then we'll continue efforts to try and get more students at Newport back in that program so they could stand alone then again. And anytime we have issues, we end up working in a combined program kind of a model. I don't want to see anything cut. Yeah.
Oh, Director Webster.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Lowell. We've spent a lot of time together this year. I had an opportunity to participate in one of the subcommittees for the WIAA, and I just learned so much, and I've just grown to be so much more appreciative of all the work that those folks do to make sure that kids have access to equitable extracurricular activities. And I know that you've been a pretty intricate leader in that, in that role, in that process. And so I'm just so grateful that you dedicate so much time to doing that. So thank you. With regard to kind of the student agency, I know that we didn't talk about a lot about it today, but in the report, I think that it's so impressive how some of our high schools have been able to kind of integrate student voice in the decision-making process. I just remember, a couple of years ago, being asked as a parent to participate in the hiring of a coach, right? And then the kids who actually are playing the sport were asking the questions of the coaches, and doing kind of that interview process. And I think Wes Newton was kind of leading that. And it was just so nice, to have their voices heard, to be able to contribute. And they were really excited. So I see that working, and just congratulations on doing that. It is definitely a goal of ours here in this district. The other thing that I asked about on Monday, and I think that you outlined it here in one of the slides, was questions that I got around funding models, what that looks like across our schools, particularly in our sports, across our high schools, what those allocations look like, what the equipment allocations, look like, all of that. And it looks like that's something that you're going to be exploring coming up based on your slide there. So thank you for that. And then the only question that I have is I'm wondering about the coaches. Are they required to do any anti-bias or equity training as they come into our district?
Specifically right now, the answer would be no, we haven't added an anti-bias or equity training specifically, but is that something that we can continue? And trust me, where we were 2 or 3 years ago to where we are now, they are much better trained than they were 2 or 3 years ago. Can we end up looking at adding that? We certainly can.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Block?
Sure. Thanks for the presentation. It's great to see these activities create a lot of joy for a lot of our students and their families. And these are for talking with some middle schoolers, they said the only reason I go to school is so I can play on the football
It's
team.
the only reason I went to school in middle school.
So I know that this is a really important part of our programmings. Really appreciate the Unified Sports and Flag Football. I think those are great programs to support and to have off the ground. I'm a little bit concerned about the football participation at Sammamish High School. And specifically, I watched my college where their numbers dipped into the low 50s and then they had to cancel their season. And I'm just wondering, do we have a point at which we feel we can't safely support a competitive sport or a contact sport like football? So I'll have more questions, but that's the one that I wonder there. And how do we support those students who want to continue to play football there if they do get to a kind of pinch point? It's amazing to see some of the partnerships that these programs drive. Jubilee Reach has been an amazing partner to our sports programs, especially for the middle schools. And that's really important. I want to recognize, actually, Abigail Horsfall and the crowd helped support some of the trips for the middle schools this last year and helped the middle schools all identify some grant funding opportunities so that there could be some equitable access to those programs. I think that that's really great. I think that this was one of the first times that Highland's been able to fully participate in some of those field trips. And I know that that's another thing that a lot of students look forward to and see as a growth opportunity as well as a community development opportunity. And finally, I really appreciate the effort to provide some structural support to the drama programs. Some have a lot of participation and support, and some are closer to that threshold of viability, either with their equipment or with the number of people participating. And I do feel like with a little bit of support, we can improve the viability of all those programs. Thanks.
Okay, and then I just have a few comments. I'm going to say thank you for working on that WIA handbook and the transfer rule. That whole thing was very important to me when I first came on the board. And I also know how much of a bear it is to try to read that whole handbook. So thank you for that. And I will second the comment about the training on basically equity for the coaches, just because people don't know what they don't know. And sometimes that can hurt our students. And then I also am concerned the equity and equipment thing between the comprehensive high schools and so forth. I used to be in the Interlake Boosters Club, and I just see that like sometimes your group can raise money for this stuff at one of the schools and sometimes they can't. And just the very fact that boosters feel that they are raising money for things that are needed in the programs means that there's going to be some inequity somewhere. So I'm glad you're looking at that. So, yeah. And then the other thing that came up was a big thing in my life, and you'd think that was a bunch of years ago, but it came up again this week with another family. If your kid is at a choice school and you want to participate in sports at a comprehensive high school, boy, is that a battle. Well, first of all, there's not really transportation. And the coach over at the other school says, oh, practice begins at such and such time and you're late. Well, try wrestling your way out of the international school parking lot if you're not the first one in line, which I always was, to take a couple of kids. And I got a speeding ticket once. I mean, it is crazy. And so every year I would have to contact the coach over at Interlake and say, could you please think that we're not just walking out of the school, we're coming from across town, and eventually would get it sorted out. But I just heard this week from another family that's having that same problem going to Newport. So it's something about just a little bit of timing and grace, and not marking that kid from the choice school absent, and that they didn't come to practice on time, they couldn't control it, something. And I don't think all the coaches know, because they seem kind of surprised when I would reach out to them every year.
Do we really only have 25 seconds? I thought you said we had 10 extra minutes earlier today, so.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Okay.
It goes, it says 5:45. I guess we were.
Jeff, please do not fill the time.
Right. Don't fill the 5:45.
I'll provide a couple other thoughts for you. Some years ago, Sammamish football reached a point where we had to reboot. We had to forfeit 4 games, end of season. This is going on 10 years ago. The number at the beginning of the season was in the low 20s, and so they were going to try and have a varsity team and drop down to 11. We said, no, we're not going to do that. Ended the season, did a comprehensive overhaul of the program. When we're in 50s in the high school level, you're talking about one level of football. You'd just have a varsity team. Everybody would have to find a way to figure out how to participate there. When it gets lower than that, we start to say, okay, what are we doing here? What else do we need to change so that we get more kids out? That is one that I do plan on spending time with Wes and with Coach Peasy over there to see what else needs to be done, just to make sure we can get even 15 more bodies, 10 to 15 more bodies. Part of that number, it dropped through the season too, and that's one of the things I want to look at is what happened during the season. The idea of budgeting. In the report, I added an appendix. There are 4 different places where we end up having budgeting. My department has taken. When I first took this job, if you can believe it, I think my budget was $5,000. Right, and they said you can buy some office supplies. That's really all you're going to need. And then now, anybody can see what it is. All the coaches' stipends are in there. We've tried to centralize a lot of things. Why? So that it's done the same at all 4 schools. There is discretionary spending at 4 schools to spend that discretionary money. People are talking to me before they end up doing it. If they're going to use it for operational costs or things like that, I approve it before they end up doing it, so that we're doing it similarly at all 4 schools. We do have ASB budgets. That's where some differences come. Because the funding at each of the schools, some raise more funds than others, right? That's one area. Some things we can do to continue to change that, but we try and align practices so each of the 4 high schools are doing similar things for the athletic programs or activity programs. And then the last is actually booster clubs. What I did, and you could look at the date and we could talk about it a different day, but about 10 years ago, what did we say? Booster clubs are not paying for equipment. They're not paying for facilities. They're not paying for. Those are things that we got to take care of. If we're going to offer the program, we've got to be able to do that. So we find ways to do that, and the booster clubs really what they're designed to do is to provide the extras, to provide the things that are I'm going to call window dressing in some ways for the programs and things too. But happy to go back and continue to look at it. One of the things we didn't analyze too deeply last year is donations, and happy to go back and look at those too. So I'll say that. And then thank you for letting me know about the Choice School. And I think if I remember correctly, the day that you got the ticket was a board meeting day, and you came in and announced it to everybody when you got here.
What?
So I can remember.
I don't.
I can remember
Wait, was
that
it-
very clearly,
no,
to be
it can't-
perfectly
it can't
honest.
Because it was one of those automated ones from the camera.
Okay, maybe it wasn't the ticket day. I do remember a board meeting day. You came in late and you announced to everybody here it was because of athletics, and getting kids to a cross-country practice.
Yeah, yeah. it probably was,
I am certainly happy going into the winter season to make sure that we end up sending a message to coaches. Yeah.
happening. And the other problem is obviously the transportation, because as I finished my comments, I forgot to mention that that's a parent who's free at 3-something, to drive across town. And it's hard.
I would say it's probably a little bit tougher in the fall and a little bit tougher in the spring because we have earlier practices. The number of, and we're talking larger numbers of kids from the choice schools that are going to individual sports where they're going to start at 3:45, right,
Yeah.
or whatever it might be. Basketball, they swap practice time, so it might be a later practice,
Oh.
would be less time. Some of those kind of things would end up alleviating some of those issues in the wintertime. But I'm happy to send a message out to coaches and just remind them that that's what
Kids
should be
coming
done.
from
Yeah,
big picture and IS and
for sure.
Thank you.
Always happy to see you all. I'm not a hard guy to find, so if you have any other questions, let me know.
Okay, so, wow. All right. Guess I'm just a little flustered over my confession around the speeding ticket. It's okay. Oh boy. Anyway, board business. We're going to do the 6.1, the approval of the award of contract at the Interlake High School project. So we're going to hear some more details on that, and then we'll approve that, I hope.
Good evening, Board. As you already indicated, we're here seeking the award of the architect and engineering contract for Interlake High School. And obviously some questions that had come up, and so we want to go ahead and, in a short period of time, Cindy King, our Director of Capital Projects, is going to go ahead and kind of walk through some of the background information on this that hopefully will clarify some of the increases in the cost and scope of the project.
Hello. We are here to seek the award of architect and engineering contract for the Interlake High School renovation and addition project to Hudiball and Aramis Architecture in the amount of $11,753,589. As you know, we started a master plan last spring. We knew a lot of the things that needed to occur at Interlake that were deficient, but we wanted to make sure that we heard from the staff and students as well. And we had a really excellent, we happen to have an architect here from Hudiball and Aramis tonight. He's a former Interlake student himself and a former student of Jack's. And anyway, we had a wonderful session with them. We were able to identify even more needs, unfortunately. I'm not totally sure which of my slides are included in this. Originally, way back when we were only going to do a classroom addition to replace the portables. As the years have gone on, we quickly knew we had an oxygen that was failing. We needed, security was an issue. We had a lot of ADA, excuse me, a lot of ADA issues that were not acceptable. So we knew our budget had grown, but doing the master plan, we identified even more issues with the school that we would like the ability to, move forward. During that master plan, we came up with, these are some of the things that we identified that robotics, we knew robotics, we were going in. We weren't really aware that we were missing a third music classroom at the school. Either choir or band had to be on the stage instead of having their own classroom. Horticulture was in an auxiliary satellite facility that was also failing and having issues, and they felt really strongly they wanted to be brought into the main building so that just to have more exposure. Just quite a few things here you can see. So we've come up with a rather comprehensive plan to completely, it'll enclose the entire school into one building. There won't be multiple buildings that we have now. The main gym was too small to have a full assembly of the entire school. So instead of just replacing the Aux gym, we're going to actually build a brand new gym that'll be on par with some of our other high schools. New music area, new athletic facilities. They don't have, locker rooms. They don't have athletic locker rooms. We'll do some improvements to the existing science labs and add 3 new science labs, 16 new core education classrooms, a presentation area, robotics space, and I hope this one is on here. The biggest thing, that was it. The biggest thing is going to be a huge civil project to improve the on-site parking, on-site queuing. It is not good now, and the city was going to require us to do it whether we did just a classroom addition or not, just because parking off-site is not good. So anyway, if we have any questions, we're open to that.
Do people want to comment or respond? Yeah. Director Webster, you're
Sure, I'll go
nodding.
first. Thank you so much for your presentation. So in terms of the geothermal well and solar arrays that you as a part of the sustainability features, I'm wondering if we are planning on tracking the savings. I think Dr. Aramaki had mentioned that on Monday, in operational costs, right? And not just maybe just one time, but year over year. I think that would be really valuable to our community and to our board to kind of just see how much we're saving and presenting that maybe at a board meeting yearly.
We'd love to.
Yeah. So thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Director Ars?
I just want you to say it for record. Which budget is this coming from?
Bond. These are from already voter-approved bond money. Each time when we do a project, we always kind of over budget because we like to always come in under budget. So always that money then moves forward on to the next projects. And as you know, we've had some savings with some of the consolidations. And so we've been able to just continue to move the money forward and has allowed us to increase the budget on Interlake.
Thank you. I just want to make sure the community understands it does not come from our general
Already
funds.
approved. We don't need to.
I do have one question. I know that you're doing additional work around ADA and better accessibility for especially our students who need elevators and so forth. With that said, I'm curious, I know we've noticed over the past year when elevator doesn't work, it creates a problem. Are we knowing that? Is there a way that we could make sure we have a backup plan or a backup process when elevator does not function to make sure that our students still could get to their classes?
I'll defer to Jack on this one.
Yeah, we've been working on that. We've gone through some real growing pains with the elevators at Newport High School. And because of the new athletic complex, the new CTE classroom area, they've had several different more elevators than they needed in previous things. So one of the things that we are working on is we are revising our specifications, and we are going to eliminate any of the potential vendors if they can't demonstrate a certain amount of ability to go ahead and keep these things operational. And if there is something that happens, what is going to be the time frame to get them taken care of? Because what we've gone through at Newport has been really unacceptable. So.
Because I realize I'm the board director who drives past Interlake a couple times a day and often gets caught up in that whole parking scenario. Even if I'm not trying to park there, I'm just behind, you got to have patience and take a deep breath and try not to hit any kids. Those are the main things. But there's always a big queue going either direction. And sometimes it's right before me trying to get to this meeting. if it's like the 3:30 timeframe. Anyway, I appreciate you working on the parking because that's been difficult when I'm trying to go to like events and games and stuff. It can be difficult. The tiers and and then the other thing is I really appreciate this whole ADA thing because having to go like outside because you're using crutches or a wheelchair or something is just not okay. So thank you for looking into fixing that. And I'm also curious, are you doing anything? What did you say about horticulture? What are you doing?
Horticulture is, if you can see the green area up there, we're actually designing them as STEM classrooms. So in case in the future horticulture day wasn't around or something, but they would be regular STEM classes. They'll have 2 classrooms in there, and across the way will be they're going to be growing lettuce produce for the entire district.
Oh, wow.
Have enough room, and it'll be a window that students can see in and see the hydroponic.
Same greenhouses or new greenhouses?
Greenhouses are the other green that you can see off to the side there. So all new greenhouses.
New ones, okay.
Because they're also not in great shape right now. And she does such an amazing program there. And
Oh, okay. It's one of my favorite places to visit. That's why I'm asking.
it'll also create secure courtyards. Security is an issue right now that there'll be decorative fencing along each of those, and they'll create 4 secure courtyards for outdoor, for horticulture to use, for quiet study, for spillover from commons, that sort of thing.
Thank you for the lettuce.
And it's a pretty amazing program they're doing. And
Director Vaughn?
Yeah, I really appreciate this. Obviously there's some definite needs here. I do want to acknowledge, as we discussed on Monday, that the budget has increased significantly from what it was initially projected to be during the 2020 ballot. We have the funds from other projects to support this increase in budget. I do want to, all of this has been thought through as far as developing a master plan and identifying the critical needs at this site. And I think that the slide that you presented kind of enunciates what those needs that were identified. I would love to see that master plan report if that's something that I can get. Still haven't seen that.
the one that I turned into you?
I haven't seen the actual master plan report. I got the presentation. I'm sorry if it was sent to me. I may have missed it, but I didn't see it.
We'll get that to you for sure.
One of the things that I've noticed, and in particular following last year's bomb cyclone, is that it seems like some of our specialized equipment is especially sensitive to power outages. And I am wondering about generators or battery backups for some of those equipments. That's possibly one of the issues with the elevators, but I've also heard the pottery and glass ovens have the same sort of issue where they're getting damaged by that. And we're seeing issues with the drama stuff, just some of the specialized equipment, it seems like is one of the areas where we're struggling a little bit and making sure that we're fully supporting that. And specifically, I'm asking about, battery backups and if now's the time to kind of plan that in if we need to do that. You've talked several times about the challenges of Bellevue permitting. I would relish the chance to support you however we can from a political perspective to ensure that they're giving us appropriate level of attention and schedule. As a professional environmental scientist, I work with permitting every day. And I have seen the differences that an effective advocate for a project versus just an advocate for a project can make in permit schedules. So I'm happy to provide whatever assistance is welcome there. And those opportunities. I do want to recognize the additional parking. So to me, the most important thing is that you're improving circulation, which should dramatically improve the traffic and safety issues around the campus. It is almost a 50% or slightly more than a 50% increase in the parking capacity on campus. I am not, like my neighbor here, as familiar with what this campus looks like when it's fully occupied, but I know a lot of our campuses currently have students parking in the neighborhoods and taking whatever parking spots they can find, whether they're legal or not. So it's great to be able to provide a little bit more access. I do recognize that I'll finish this comment, there are 3 or 4 transit stops immediately around the school, and making sure that we're supporting that and providing that as the preferred mode of transportation for students as well is an important aspect. Thanks.
Thank you. We appreciate your offer. We did have our first pre-app meeting with the city yesterday on international. And the first time we were both kind of surprised to hear one of the reviewers say that we understand this is a special project. We are giving higher priority to our schools. And so whoever's been speaking to someone, it's, I think, hopefully helping. We've also allowed plenty of time into our schedule. We just have no choice. Then the next project, they said it would be 14 months. So it depends on which reviewer you're speaking to. But someone said that we are prioritized. We are the schools. So whoever's helping, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you to Diane Carlson, the city manager. And then John is also working with staff there. So they understand. So
It seems to be improving. We'll see on our next ones.
Students should be the highest priority. But anyway, that's my opinion.
We agree.
Okay.
It's good to hear it finally.
I think that's everything for now. So, yes, we got to vote.
Please
vote. Yes, we got to vote. All right. So, can we have a motion?
I move to approve the Interlake contract for architectural engineer and design.
Second.
Yep.
Okay. So would anybody like to do any further discussion on this?
So the only question I have is whether or not we need to do anything else with regards to the change in budget for this project, because it was initially described as a $60 million project in some public documents. And now I think you said the new number is.
The language in the actual bond doesn't give numbers.
I'm aware that the bond doesn't have numbers, but the public documents, and I agree with you, the actual resolution for the bond does not identify specific projects. So
It identifies projects.
it identifies projects, but it doesn't identify specific budgets for the projects. Some of the public communications that were put out by BSD at that time and are still available on our website do have budget numbers assigned to specific projects. There's a table that identifies 10 projects and has a $60 million associated with the Interlake project. And my understanding is this budget is substantially higher than that now. And so the only question is whether or not we need to do any sort of a resolution to recognize that change in budget.
Change anything in the F-195?
John, do you know?
No.
I mean, I think we should probably get some advice on this. I mean, I think you probably could, or I think Director Block, it seems that you would like the public to be aware of the significant change and why, and maybe there's another way that we can do that, but.
So it seems to me that we could approve this now, and then we could research it, and then if we need to do another motion to modify some of our budget document that we approved, or the capital projects budget, which I'm wondering, that was probably included in what we said we were going to do this year, make sure those numbers line up and reapprove.
So I'll just give the context. I did look at what Lake Washington had a similar situation where they changed one of their, I think it's an elementary or middle school, where they changed what they're doing and there's a significant budget change, and their board passed a resolution recognizing that shift. I have not looked at what their resolution for the bond looked like, because like you said, the bond resolution does not identify specific budgets, it identifies of projects and identifies specific projects. This is one of those specific projects.
Okay. With that said, any more comments? No. Okay.
My comment is, I would say we would go ahead and vote on this and then take the time to see if we want to add additional notation to the documentation, whether it is through resolution or anything else, and do that later.
Okay. So all those in favor of approving the Interlake contract, which is for architects and engineers,
correct,
to plan things out, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
Thank you so much.
I guess it passes. Did you? I didn't hear everybody, but everybody voted aye, so that motion passes. Okay, so now we need to talk about the proposed changes to policy 3241, student behavior corrective actions and/or intervention.
And I'm just going to introduce it really quickly here. This is a second reading version. It includes revisions since the first reading version from October 16th, as well as the revisions based on your feedback last Monday. And I'm just going to introduce my colleague, Dr. William Jackson, to take you through the changes.
Thank you. And me and John Harrison decided to dress the same today in celebration of this event. All right, gotta add some light to this. All right, so, all right, gotta get that out. Okay, our goal is to have a second reading, as John already expressed, to policy 3241. And first, we'll identify how we got here, and through our equity-driven decision-making. And second, I'll articulate how this is situated under our We Belong strategic plan goal, primarily living in beloved community, addressing harm. And lastly, we'll address the key changes and hope we get a vote to move forward. And this is the annual plan goal, build a system-wide understanding of beloved community, interrupt discrimination through improved processes and procedures, and establish belonging and trust baseline using survey data. So right here, what you have is a timeline, and within the timeline is a story. And this begins with student voice. And I just, to editorialize, student voice is one of the drivers, the biggest drivers of change, and one of the best indicators to lead for system change. And on January, I don't know the exact date, 2023, there was a school board meeting where there was review of the annual plan goal. Annual plan goals around sense of belonging. And the report showed that we met our 2018 through 2023 goals, but the student experience didn't match because the students actually showed up to the school board meeting and shared that their experience did not match the actual data that was in the Panorama surveys or the surveys that were sent out to them. And what that did from my study of Bellevue School District was that shifted our approach to how we looked at data, taking what we now call the humanizing data, humanizing the experience approach, moving to in the spring of equity-driven decision-making, shifting away from critical criteria. And so from 2023 to 2024, there was an annual plan goal focus on student voice and agency. And this is where in Leadership Institute, the equity-driven decision-making, the placards that you have right there, was placed on every table, and every leader was walked through that process. It's worth naming that Director Webster was instrumental in this process and an advocate for change throughout everything that's going to be identified moving forward here. And so the spectrum of community engagement, and there's a step-by-step guide that's already there, and how to actually listen to families, listen to students, and listen to community. And that's where empathy interviews came in as a part of that process. And that's where, through that, there was a development of the 2024 through 30 strategic plan, focus on we belong, we learn, we lead. And within the We Belong focus, there was actually a Black Excellence Initiative. In the Black Excellence Initiative, there was a call to action based off of the student voice from 2022, 2023. And that call to action was to actually listen to those students and go back to them and hear about their experience and talk to the families and ask them what their experience was. Taking an EDDM process and actually placing it back on the Black Excellence Initiative, situating it under the We Belong goal. And so the trend that we saw, and this is the conflict and climax here of the story, is that Black students, educators, and families shared that there was this big challenge with N-words and racism and discrimination. And our leaders were trying really hard to address this, but they didn't have the response that was needed because they couldn't actually create the environment that allowed for this restorative justice to actually happen, or freedom from harm to actually be interrupted, because an N-word might be expressed and then the student might go back to class, or later on we learned, listening to other family groups, Jewish families as well, an anti-Semitic remark, a swastika, and then there might be a conversation and the student's back in class. And so what we learned through that is that we needed to take two approaches. And this is where a great group of leaders, I identified Janisha Branch, Director of Employee Relations and Leadership Development. Freedom Johnson is our engagement specialist for our BIPOC educators, and Janine Thorne as well, our communications, Chief of Communications, and Ricardo Macias as well, all led this effort through our equity design team, identifying a few priorities. One was through accountability, and that lives under addressing harm and creating the conditions around policy procedure. And the other is professional learning, and that's focusing on microaggressions and building the capacity of actually equity-focused leadership, culturally responsive teaching, building relationships, building a capacity for love in our system. And so that's what moved us to where we are moving to right now. And the focus in the group, in the design team, the equity design team, we identified a policy, and that's when we started to partner with John Harrison. We identified policy 3241 as the area where we could start to move some practice as we build capacity amongst our school community in developing our understanding of microaggressions and addressing microaggressions. So to speed this up a little bit, just to give you an update, around the arc of professional learning, all of our schools by the end of 2025, 2026 will have received the microaggressions professional learning and training. So that's a highlight for Bellevue School District. All of our leaders will have experienced learning and leadership focused on microaggressions, multilingual learning and equity, anti-Semitism and Jewish identity, and inclusion and accessibility, all under the equity-focused arc. So this is building capacity in our system. The next step that can help anchor this is to actually move forward with this shift in policy that can help create those conditions. So that moves us into the key changes to policy 3241, student behavior, corrective action, and intervention. So our hope is to allow short-term suspensions for discriminatory acts and language in order to disrupt discriminatory behavior in schools. Second is to strengthen language on discipline appeals council representation to ensure diverse perspectives and experiences. And lastly is to set a date for review of the policy in the 2027-2028 school year. So we can move to President Watson. I move to approve the key changes. I'm joking. I know. I'm having a little fun through this difficult time. So we can actually go through the specific changes if you like. The changes in yellow highlights were changes made since the first reading based on director feedback and were shared with the board at Monday's pre-meeting. So lines 36 and 37 added the 4 additional protected classes the legislator added last session. Lines 82 to 84 is a preamble that was added to state our aspiration of minimizing exclusionary discipline. And lines 136 to 138 are intended to codify our intent to ensure that the representatives to the Discipline Appeals Council reflect the diversity of our community. Lines 150 to 152 requires bias training for all DAC representatives. The changes highlighted in green are changes based on director feedback from last Monday's pre-meeting. Lines 104 to 107 codify support for students following a short-term suspension. Lines 138 to 140 require the same training as DAC representatives for the special committee of the board. And lines 256 to 262 describe implementation, communication, and specify a policy review timeline. All right, thank you.
We're going to do a motion to approve this, and then we're going to have some discussion. Okay. All right.
I move to approve policy 3241, student behavior, corrective actions and/or interventions.
Second.
Okay. So now it's time for discussion. Anybody want to say something? So I want to say something. My discussion is on the part where the DAC, can we roll back to that about the special committee of the board? I think I felt like I'd said something that didn't quite make it in here, which was, okay, one parent, guardian, representative, and one or more alternates will be recommended by a special committee of the board, and the special committee will get training. Does this cover the idea that it's like when the district staff recommends some people, then it comes to the board, the full board for a vote? And what I want to be clear on is that when the special committee of the school board recommends some people, it comes with a rationale or a little memo or something, and then it's the board that actually agrees to it.
Do you want to wait to all of the questions, or do you want me to answer?
Well, we could. It's there? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's exactly right, President Watson. I think the idea would be hopefully at the next board meeting next week, that you would approve a 2-member special committee. And then, applications of folks who would be interested in serving would come to you, and the 2 members of that committee would be recommending a representative to DAC and one or more alternates, just like we used to do through the PTSA.
I just feel like we have to make it clear, because sometimes we forget over time, or we don't know, remember when we forgot about approving the board calendar? I mean, we can forget things over time if we don't have them written down.
Okay.
So where do we want to write it down? Here, or in a procedure, or someplace?
What you could do is when you're ready to vote, it could be with an amendment to the motion to include language to the effect that you just said.
Okay, let's see if we can just get a few words. All right, anybody else want to say anything? Or?
Yeah, I've got just a couple of things. So sorry, I was writing notes. I may be somewhat redundant to what Director Watson was saying, but we had talked about the monitoring and reporting at the Monday session. And my hope would be that within a year of implementation, that we would get some monitoring and reporting to see if we need to do adaptive management to this policy, because this is clearly an area that's evolving and changing over time. The other thing is going to be something that's somewhat related to the implementing procedure, which I know I discussed with you, Mr. Harrison, which is that students actually raised the point that the procedure currently identifies recording and sharing sexual videos as problematic. And what has changed since then is the proliferation of cell phones and recording devices in schools means that a much broader set of actions are being recorded and shared in ways that may constitute bullying, harassment, other things. And I encourage you to consider updating the procedure to recognize that, specifically to prevent sharing bullying, harassing, and videos relating to fights. That those would be things that we should be clear that those are not acceptable on our campuses. Thanks.
Any more comments before I make a amendment?
I do. First of all, I just want to put it out on record that I'm not a proponent for suspensions of having students removed from their learning environment. That said, I also am not in favor of our students who feel that they're not safe, and that needs to be addressed. I think we have amended this a few years ago, trying to address the bullying and the racial slurs and so forth, and obviously it's not working, hence why we're back here. And I'm willing to take this leave to do that and hope that it's enough a shock to our community system that it's not just a teacher's duty, but it's a full community, including the student and parents' duty to address the inappropriate languages that is being used to harm each other. That said, I do appreciate the new additions and the languages. I noticed that can you scroll down to the final green, the implementation review. So based upon what I'm reading, can you make that a little bit bigger? Sorry. The line 25 through 262. There we go. Thank you. I do agree that we need to revisit to make sure that it is working. My concern is that it is the way it is written. We're looking at reopening the whole policy to possibly revise at that time. I am concerned about not having enough data points. 1 year is often in education system not enough to show its impact. And so I am concerned about the way this is written. I would prefer to visit and see and look at the impact, and unless it shows that it is significantly harming our kids, to wait off at least, I don't know what is, typically I think anytime we introduce any program in a school district size like ours, it takes a few years for it to be actually fully implemented in all of our schools, to follow the same trend before we look at revising our policy. I think often good programs or good things get taken off because we're not seeing enough data points.
Director Webster?
I appreciate that and honor that. And if any data shows a trend that could have impact over a year, we would have to talk to students, family, and community and run a whole new equity-driven decision-making process to even determine if we would make any change based off of our policy.
And I would just add the way that it's worded was sort of intentional, where we've said the board will review the impact at the end of the 25-26 school year and the annual plan end of the year report. So the idea was to kind of share data, and then with the review, if the data didn't support any changes, then we wouldn't make any changes. If the data suggested otherwise, I would completely agree with Dr. Jackson. We would need to do some further engagement. And the other thing I'll just quickly mention, Director Aras, you talked about when students, are supported and not further victimized upon reentry. And Dr. Jackson talked about the restorative nature, that preamble that we made for second reading really talked about our intent. Our goal is to reduce and keep minimal any exclusionary discipline. But what we say is the accompanying procedure includes consideration of age-appropriate implications and reentry that may or may not include a safety and/or restoration plan if desired by the person that was harmed. So I'm hoping that covered that concern.
Okay. Director Webster?
Thank you so much for clarifying that. I understood the section that Director Ars was referring to as kind of just that. Let's take a look and see how things are going with no changes, and just kind of see what needs to happen next. So I appreciate that language. I also just want to share that short-term suspensions are a tool, right? It's to help to curb some of the discriminatory behaviors that we don't want to see happen. We want to make sure that all of our students are safe, that they feel included, that they feel like they belong. We want to stop and minimize some of these incidents, that all of them that are coming, up fairly frequently. And I think that this is just another opportunity. It's just another tool in the toolkit that we can use to sort of mitigate some of those incidents. And so I am in full support of this moving forward. I do have just a couple of questions that came up for me. So what happens if a student who committed an offense is suspended, comes back, and receive some kind of learning around their actions, whether it's from an administrator or an educator or whomever the school leaders have agreed to, and then commits a similar act a second time? So that's my first question. And then my second question was, can these like under this policy, can they be appealed? And if the answer is yes, I think we're going to talk a little bit about kind of the requirement for DAC, the individuals who are sitting on that committee, the importance of making sure that those people have the training that they need, especially in these incidents. So if you could answer those two questions for me, that'd be great.
Sure. First, I want to also share that we did take a really front-loaded approach around the professional learning, around microaggressions, and we're really digging deep in how we build capacity so that this is just a tool. This isn't the move. And that the move is to build relationships, resolve conflict through addressing microaggressions. And at last case, worst case scenario, if we have to do a school removal, that's the option. Yes, I don't know if we have this language in our policy, but progressive discipline is a way. If this happened over and over again, the first offense or the first time that this happened beyond the restorative work, beyond the relationship building, and the student had to be removed and it happens again, then that 1 day suspension could potentially be 2 days. But within that suspension is learning that has to continually happen. And we just build capacity through that. We have to build the capacity with our students as well. And that's how I would see that. As well as, so to the next question, appeal, I do believe that any suspension, a student and family should have a right to an appeal, and that should be identified to them while that removal is happening. And this is part of the reason why we are recommending that whoever's on that appeals council does have bias training.
Yeah, and then the appeals process is laid out in the policy just prior to this section on DAT, because that's the ultimate appeal. And Washington state law does require a progressive discipline model that Dr. Jackson alluded to.
Okay, I want to add something. In addition to the motion I'm going to make in a minute, I'm not that comfortable with hard coding dates into policies, because in 5 years we come back and we're like, okay, this is out of date, and it just forces us to, what if this thing goes as we hope it goes and everything's fine? So I think it's fine to have January 5th, 2026 in there as a start date, because even in 5 years you look at that, okay, that's when that started. But I'm wondering how it would be to say the board will review the impact at the end of the school year in the annual plan, like not say like next school year. We could review it every year. And if it goes well, the discussion will be very brief. It'll be like, oh, okay. And if it doesn't go well, then we'll have a deeper discussion at that time. So I would take 25, 26 out, and then the board will revisit this policy during the upcoming school years, or, something more generic, so that we don't look at this in 5 years and go, oh, that's out of date. Yeah. Okay, so now, so first I want to make a motion about going back to line 38. maybe we can tack all these things together. I want to amend right after, is it 38? No, that's not it. Where it says the thing about the DAC and the subcommittee that's going to, maybe it wasn't.
Line 137. Sorry, 138, my mistake.
Okay, so right where it says, we have the yellow, recommended by a special committee of the school board and to be approved by the full board would be what I would add to that sentence. So one parent, guardian, representative, and one or more alternates recommended by a special committee of the board and to be approved by the full school board.
Second.
Okay.
Can I just say one more
right?
thing about that? Well, no, I think that sounds great. And the other thing that we also talked about was, did we want to put in something about in consultation with the district equity team? So, because we did say,
We didn't want to burden the whole team, but we wanted somebody with expertise. So I don't know how you want to write that. Somebody with expertise.
we have a team, and I think the team would be willing to,
Send
it's such an important part of this. So it's up to you, but we could also say recommended by the special committee of the board in consultation with the district equity team to be approved by the full school board.
I mean, that's fine with me. It's just, I was going on,
That one.
you know, okay, you're okay with that? Because, okay. All right. Well, I'm just aware that a lot of times, a lot of burden can be put on, you know, people who have the lived experience to help us. And so that's what I was getting at there.
I think that as long as it's like consultation and the board is doing kind of the legwork.
Right, yeah, I said, sort of, in a one-on-one with Director Webster, I said, I think the board committee could do the paperwork, the initial shuffling, and maybe the equity team could just meet with us for an hour or two, and it wouldn't have to be like this huge burden on them.
I value that, and I appreciate this discussion as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question? Mr. Harrison, is the Discipline Appeals Committee membership, is that described in a procedure somewhere as well? This is just awfully procedural in the policy here. This is very prescriptive.
Yeah, it's described here. It's not
in a
it's
procedure.
referenced in the procedure, but it's described in the policy.
Okay.
That's pretty typical for policies across the state.
Because it is state law or state something. Yeah.
So it's just very, very, very prescriptive. Thank you.
Yeah. I would agree it's very prescriptive.
Where are we on the motion? I was trying to make the motion.
You made the motion and it was seconded by Jane. We're in discussion. Well, Dr. Aramaki made a suggested modification. One parent, guardian, representative, and one or more alternates recommended by a special committee of the board and to be approved by the full board. So we have to insert, let's see, alternates recommended by a special committee of the board in consultation with the district equity
Design team.
And to be approved by the full board. Do we have that?
Second.
Okay.
Perfect. Nicely done, President Watson.
Let's vote on the amendment to the full motion. So all those in favor of the amended language, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now, I don't want to quite go back and vote on the full policy yet because we want to make another amendment around those dates.
Right.
So if we can scroll down to that date paragraph.
Right at the bottom of the document. There we go.
Right, and I would like to make a motion to amend this, that the board will review the impact at the end of the school year in the annual plan end of year report. The board will revisit this policy during upcoming school years, consistent with the development and review section above.
Second.
Okay. So would anybody like to discuss that amendment further? Okay, all those in favor of that amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we are back to, we've had discussion on the motion to approve the policy. Is there any more discussion there? Okay, well, we're nested here. And then,
Nice job.
and then let's say all those in favor of approving this policy as amended with everything, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Whew. Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Well done. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We're going to go on to, let's hope it's not quite so tricky.
Can I just say,
Agenda
good
item
job to, good job to Dr. Jackson. Good job, Mr. Harrison, on this. This was a lot of hard work, a lot of community engagement. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it, board.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Oh, wow, we were ahead, but luckily we needed the ahead because now we're closer to behind. Okay, so now let's talk about the second reading and approval of proposed changes to policy 3241. No, to policy 3210. We did 3241. Now we're doing 3210, non-discrimination as it relates to students.
Great, thank
So-
you. So I'm just going to introduce my colleague, Nancy Pham, who's our Title IX Non-Discrimination Compliance Officer. And of course, these two policies, the next two policy, 3210, 5010, are both kind of fall under her purview. She and I have worked with a team of people over the last couple of years to get to this point. Super appreciative of Nancy's work, and I'm just going to turn it over to Nancy to walk you through the changes we'd like to share with you tonight.
You need to turn on your mic. It's the,
She said she didn't get the memo about the gray suit. Next time.
Great, thank you. So for 3210, there are no changes since the first reading. I want to thank the board for reviewing these two policies and really engaging with them. They're very near and dear to my heart, not only as the compliance officer who has to oversee them, but also a staff member of color and the parent of two students in the district who fall under multiple protected classes. So like I said, there are no changes, but I did want to address a couple questions from the first reading related to 3210, as well as some questions that several directors left in the Word document. So there are 4 additional protected classes that were added based on new state legislation: ethnicity, homelessness, immigration or citizenship status, and neurodivergence. So there was a discussion related to the term homelessness during the first reading, and that terminology is consistent with the new RCW. And since it's a legal term, we don't recommend changing it. But I did want to acknowledge that this terminology is not consistent with what we use in the district. There was also another question about under number 3, line 19 and 20, about the requirement to have a reference to the Boy Scouts. And so this is actually a federal, a requirement under federal legislation. There was a Boy Scouts of America Equal Access Act that was passed in 2002 that applies to all school districts that receive federal funding. So this language, again, is just a legal requirement that we have to have in our non-discrimination statement.
So, yeah, so no changes since first reading. So our recommendation is that you consider approving policy 3210 as presented.
I move to approve policy 3210 as proposed.
Second.
Do we have discussion? I just want to comment on the Boy Scouts thing. When I first encountered it,
Mike.
I want to just comment on the Boy Scouts thing. When I first encountered it, which was years ago, when John and I were doing something on a slightly different topic, but it was about room use and facilities use and stuff. Yeah, I went actually to the federal law, and it's in there for sure. I don't know what year they passed that law, but it's a long time ago, so.
It was 2002.
Oh, okay. All right, so there we have it.
The comment was not that. The point was that there are about 5 other youth groups that are listed there that are, including the Boy Scouts that are listed under Title 36. And so I found it awkward to call out one when Girl Scouts, 4-H, Boys and Girls Club are all listed as patriotic groups.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's a different section of the law I looked at because it was just about you have to let them meet.
Director Block's inaccurate, but every time this gets presented in state legislation, it's presented as you see it tonight. So similar to the.
And I believe there was a lawsuit, and there is a Supreme Court case that established that ability for the Boy Scouts. That is likely why it happened.
It is odd. I would agree with that.
Okay, so we're not feeling like we need to modify it to add the other groups?
I do want to make a comment regarding the homeless. I just want to make sure that the community knows that we are using the word unhoused in all of our other contexts. Thanks.
Right.
Yeah, I think the point is that in its infinite wisdom, homeless is the term the state legislature chose to use here.
Yeah. So we are demonstrating that we do follow state and federal law on things. We don't conflict with them. Okay, any more comments? All right, I'm going to say all those in favor of approving policy 32110, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
And now we're going to do the same thing for 5010, policy 5010, which is similar, a policy, but for staff, but similar, but not the same.
Yeah, so last year we had made some changes based on our work with BIPOC educators, although the most substantive changes then were in the procedure. The changes tonight are based off of a rehaul of the WASDA model, as well as legislative changes, mostly in adding the protected classes. WASDA determined that the affirmative action section was no longer required because districts can address the same thing in their own affirmative action plans, which Bellevue has. And we also feel like this is a better fit because it brings the focus back on employee rights and responsibilities and the complaints resolution process. We do have some changes since the first reading, starting with line 57. That was a spelling error. I think Director Webster pointed that out, so thank you.
Okay.
And then moving along to line 61 and 62, this was also a comment from Director Webster about the term promptly and what that means. And we refer back to the procedure for this, but we did add a clarification that receipt of the complaint will be acknowledged within 2 school or business days, and the investigation will proceed promptly after that. And then the final change is, I believe that sentence used to be 2 sentences in the original, and we changed it for clarity. And then since Monday, we also added the very last part as undue hardship on the district, just to make it more clear.
Okay. Clarifying that it was hardship on the district. So I guess what we want is a motion.
Same thing. Yep. Thank you.
I move to approve the changes to the policy 5010, non-discrimination.
Second.
Okay. So discussion on this? Okay, Director Webster?
So I think that it's really important that we have this in place for our leaders and our staff. We're asking our students and we're holding our students to a certain standard. And I think that it's important that staff feel safe as well. And so I just appreciate that we're making this change. Thanks.
And if I just may editorialize just for a moment, very quickly, this policy where you approved changes last year and we made changes to the procedure was a result of about a years-long process with a group of BIPOC educators. And similar to the changes made in 3241, our staff of color were saying things like the protections for students in 3210 seem to be stronger than they are for staff in 5010. So it was a great process, and it was a true EDDM process with the twist of, instead of district or board or administration identifying an issue, the issue was brought to us by our educators. So it was a good process, and thanks to Freedom Johnson and to the whole team of people that work with us, primarily under Freedom's leadership as the coordinator for the engagement specialists for BIPOC educators.
So all those in favor of approving, all those in favor of approving policy 5010, please say aye.
Aye.
And I don't hear any room for opposition, so the policy was approved. Okay, wow. All right, good. And now it's time for director discussion. Yep.
I guess I'll go first. I'll start with the good, happy things. Really enjoyed my time doing the Looking for the Helpers panel. We were able to all come together as a community and have some really good conversations around how we can best support students' mental health. And there were a lot of resources that were provided there. And so my ask is that, and I think that they're going to do this, but if those leftover resources can be put into the Welcome Center for families that are coming in or people that might be interested in what the resources are in our community, what the laws say around family-initiated treatment and how they can help support parents who have youth who are maybe not quite ready to consent to treatment but may need it. Those resources be available for families that are coming into our district. So I just really appreciate the Bellevue Schools Foundation for hosting that, and Bellevue PTSA Council as well for supporting that work. I also really enjoyed our visit to Digital Discovery. I was really impressed by the amount of growth in that program and the joy and the engagement of all the students. They were super excited and they made me excited. So really appreciative of all the work that's going on there. Okay, so I do have an announcement, and I'm just going to read it because it's easier for me to just read it. Today, I want to share that I have made the difficult decision to step down from my role as member of the Bellevue School Board, effective at the conclusion of our meeting today. This was a personal decision, and it has been an honor to contribute to the board and to have served the community in this capacity. Throughout my time on the board, I have remained dedicated to supporting efforts that help amplify student voice, promote sense of belonging for all students, and thoughtfully integrating frameworks like the EDDM into our decision-making processes. I truly believe that creating an environment where every student feels valued and supported is essential to their success and the success of this district. I also believe that our school board and districts collaborating with families, community partners, and elected officials is vital in building solid support systems for students and their families. Working together to build trust, engage in meaningful conversations, and advocating for equitable funding from the state that adequately support our students' needs is essential as the district moves forward and is the foundation for providing all students with access to quality education and the resources they need to thrive. I will continue my advocacy at the state level to support laws that provide youth with essential pathways to access mental health services. So though you may not see me sitting in this seat, I remain dedicated to serving our youth and families. I'm proud of the work that we've done together and grateful for the relationships that I built along the way. Thank you for the support, and I trust that I've received and the trust that I've received during my time on the board. I look forward to seeing the district continue to grow and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'll go next if that's okay with everyone. I am so grateful for Monica, Director Webster's support to me these last 2 years as she was the vice president to my president. I couldn't have done it without you in the sense that I wasn't really sure I ever wanted to do it. I'd been on a board for a while and I had passed up the opportunity a few times. And here comes Monica with her support. And I could call her like anytime, but a couple times a week and say, what are you hearing about this? Or what do you think about this? And I have this idea. And what do you think about that? And did you notice this? And she's always there to just be like really cheerful and supportive and give me really good insight into things that I might not necessarily have thought of or seen. And so that was great. And then also, it's amazing the thorough review, like you saw on the policies tonight, that she would go through and really look at things and make sure everything was correct. And then the other thing is she did like a special thing for us that I probably wouldn't have found the energy to do, where she submitted an application for us and did such a thorough job pulling together all like the research and the evidence that she needed and all the, writing persuasive paragraphs and so forth. And my understanding is that was successful, but that was just an amazing contribution. So I just feel like I'm going to miss you so much. And I'm going to keep calling, but maybe not with the same frequency because I don't want to wear you out. But it was just like really the best, most supportive vice president I could have imagined for getting me through these years. So thank you. All right, who's next?
I'll talk about Monica in a minute. I'm going to talk about other stuff for a second, and then I'll come back. So it was great to see Digital Discovery. That program has grown and expanded, and it's developing into a strong partnership with some of our people who educate their children at home. And so that is a really great opportunity to provide extra support for those families, and we encourage them to join us there. It was great to see Monica at the mental health workshop, and that was a really impressive workshop. One of the things that wasn't discussed, which I think is really important, is the role of sleep. And when I was in a middle school classroom and we got on to sleep and people were talking about how tired they were, none of the students had gotten more than 6 hours of sleep the night before. They were averaging going to sleep about midnight, and they were averaging getting up about 5:30 or 6 in the morning. So that is not sustainable, and it's a challenge, and it probably is one of the root causes to some of the behavior challenges that we're seeing in our classrooms. And that's something that we as a school district have some influence on, but that's also something that we need to work in partnership with families to figure out solutions for. I also want to recognize that Seattle did something that they do a lot. They passed a levy, but the city of Seattle passed their Families Education Preschool and Promise levy. Currently has 78% yes vote. Part of that levy is $235 million over the next 6 years for K-12 health and safety in the schools. Just doing some modifications based on the number of students they have and the number of students we have, that would be about $15 million a year in Bellevue schools if Bellevue had a similar levy. So this is a city levy that is being used to support mental health in the schools. Another part of that levy is supporting preschool. They're doubling the number of preschool students that they're supporting. Those are things that the city could consider and that would be greatly beneficial in partnership with the school district. Which brings me to Monica, and I only have 30 seconds left. Monica and I joined the board at the same time. And it's amazing that we've now seen 3 of the board members who are on the board when I joined who've had to leave for personal reasons. This is a challenging job. Monica's one of the workhorses on the board who always puts in the effort. She brings a really distinctive voice as a parent of former athletes, as a representative, an able representative of the Black community, as somebody who's doing this as a single parent. And it's been amazing to have you here as part of that. And I am saddened to lose your voice on this board. I think it's been really important. It's been educational for me. It's been helpful to round out our contributions in so many ways. And I do look forward to your continued support and counsel as we continue to go forward without you. And I totally understand why we're losing you. And this is a job that takes a lot of time. It's a very rewarding job, but obviously it puts strains on people to try to make it all work. And really have appreciated the way that you've been able to participate and contribute your time and skills and talents, and we really will miss you. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll jump in now. My 2 cents on discovery, digital discovery. It was fantastic to visit this time around. The first time I think I visited the program was right after its inception, after our pandemic experience. And I think at that point, the board had asked, can we please take what we have learned and leverage that, and to see its evolution and its improvement and the success of it. It's been great to see. I love the can-do attitude of our staff who's working on that program. Now I'll talk. It's hard to talk as a third person when other people are already emotional and spoke and trying not to be emotional. Thank you for serving. It's definitely not an easy job. For those who are listening or want to know, it is a hard job. You don't get paid, but you're expected to give it all, which Monica has. So thank you. I appreciate all of the, I'm not good at this stuff, without breaking it to thank you for bringing your authenticity and your lived experience and lifting our students and improving the system. I appreciate the work, and I appreciate you willing to continue to do the work even though you will not be on this seat. We'll miss you. Thanks.
Okay. Dr. Aramaki?
Thank you. President Watson said I could
Yeah.
break protocol and just say something. They always say to superintendents, although this is my first superintendency, but never take a job unless you've got a really great board. And I've got the best one. And Monica Webster is one of the best. So, when she told me, I was like, you've got to be joking. But I really honor her because she looks at every policy, she looks at every word, she finds all the misspellings, but she also carries the burden of all these kids and families. She is personal, her leadership. And she advocates so well. And when we meet, she brings me stuff from Kizuki just to make sure that I'm eating. But we always talk about, she always tells me what's going well. She always affirms me, and she always encourages me. And when things aren't going right, she always tells me when something needs to be changed. And it's hard, you know, to do that well, and she does it extremely well. I want to end kind of this meeting by clicking on the slide. Yeah, thank you. By just acknowledging the school board. We found out, I think this past week, that the Bellevue School Board has been recognized as a 2025 Board of Distinction by the Washington State School Directors Association. This award goes to school boards across the state that show strong leadership and governance practices that make real difference for students. And what really stood out about our board to the selection team was their deep commitment to equity, community partnership, and student voice. Specifically, the board's work around equity-driven decision-making and the subsequent equity-driven strategic planning process. A few years ago, the board adopted the equity-driven decision-making framework. We've been talking about this all meeting. It's a way to make sure that every major decision that the district makes is grounded in the voices and experiences of those we serve, especially students and families who historically have not been heard. That approach then guided the creation of our new strategic plan. Our board and our district leaders brought together a diverse coalition of students, families, and community members. That group conducted more than 250 empathy interviews, real conversations that helped us to understand what's working and not working for our community. The impact of the equity-driven decision-making process and tools have been huge. Stronger trust, more engagement, real gains in student learning, and a transformation in how we make decisions and involve our community in decision-making as a regular practice. From designing the budget reduction plan last year to designing the Welcome Center to strengthening the policy tonight around disrupting discrimination, we use EDDM to ensure the community we are serving are sitting at the decision-making table. This recognition is a reflection of a board that listens deeply, shares leadership, and stays laser-focused on what matters most, which is our students. Director Webster, we want to thank you in particular as a parent. Before joining the board, you were a tireless advocate working with staff to create a more inclusive, equitable conditions in the district. You were a member of the design team working alongside cabinet members, Jill Rock, the BEA president, and others to create the equity-driven decision-making framework. So you were there at the ground level designing the framework, and then you joined the board and brought EDDM into the way that we do business as a board and as a district. As you step down today and prioritize yourself and your family, which you totally deserve, we want you to know that your impact will continue to be felt far into our district's great future. Thank you for your passion and your leadership. And congratulations to our Bellevue School Board on this well-deserved honor.
I just want to add that I really feel this honor was Director Webster's doing. I mean, a lot of people contributed to the work and so forth, but she gathered all the evidence and wrote it up in a way that the WASDA people could see that we deserved it. So that was, I consider this award hers. Thank you.
Executive session.
Oh, apparently we have an executive session. Okay. The board will now meet in executive session to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment or to review the performance of a public employee. The board will be in executive session for approximately 15 minutes. So, okay.
Has completed their executive session, and this regular school board meeting of the Bellevue School Board of Directors is now adjourned at 7:08 PM.
Thank you.
Thanks.